Was supposed to be the calm before the storm, and I'll be damned, the storm came right away. We thought tomorrow was going to be the day when the Texans finally had to show some clarity about the Joe Mixon situation. Instead, D'Amico Ryans dodges the question from Cody Stutes in the morning, and then hours later, we find out Joe Mixon is going to miss at least 4 games to start the season. Where the hell do they go from here? It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans digital content. I am Landry Locker. We're reacting to this Joe Mixon news that he's going to miss at least 4 games. And I want to emphasize the at least, because something weird is going on here. And we know how they are with injuries. Something extremely weird is going on here with Joe Mixon. Now, fortunately, they make the cuts tomorrow at 3. We're going to go through what exactly that means. And then we're going to hear from Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryans on Wednesday. And maybe they'll say something, but who knows? I know some people say, well, they don't have to say anything. That's true. But this is a weird situation right now with the Joe Mixon thing, to where if you go back and you look at the actions during this whole ordeal, a lot of them start to kind of make sense, and you start to wonder how bad this thing really is. Because this is a 4-week window where people are assuming he's going to be back against the Ravens. That would make no sense. Because if he comes back then, they have the bye week right after. Wouldn't you want to give him an extra 2 weeks to practice and an extra 2 weeks to get ready for the next game? And that's been Cody Stutes' theory. He's missing at least 5 games. He has to miss 4, no matter what. But this is something where, and I'm seeing people throw out guesses in the chat, and it's like, what do you, I don't know how you would guess low. We don't know anything about this. And I know Aaron Wilson has put some stuff out there. I don't know what the hell he's saying. He's talking about shots. He's talking about setbacks. Setbacks from what? The guy finished the season last year. So like, we're hearing setbacks. We don't even know what happened. The only reason that we knew that Mixon was hurt is because there was like under the radar talk of him being in a boot. And then we wonder if he's going to be ready for camp. And then all of a sudden he's not going to be a part of camp. And we're hearing setbacks. From what? It'd be easier to grasp. Like, what are you being set back from? Like when we knew Christian Harris had a bad calf. It was a little bit weird. They handled that weird. That was the ultimate example of D'Amico Ryans keeping it real goes wrong. But he had a setback from what? What happened? He's on the non-football injury list, which, by the way, non-football injury list, it's essentially the same as IR, but it also protects the team to where they can get some of the salary back. So they have that protection. How did this happen? Where did it happen? How much are they protecting themselves from this? I think it could be negotiable. You can negotiate it between player and team. But when I hear the word setback, I mean, what setback from what? Setback from what? We don't really know what's up with Mixon. And maybe we'll figure it out. Who knows? We don't know what's up with Joe Mixon. I don't know if Hannah's listening. Someone's trying to blame Hannah. I don't think that would be a Hannah thing. I think that would be more so a Caserio thing. But the Mixon, the Christian Harris thing last year was wild because they knew he was going to miss months, and they insisted on acting like they weren't going to say when he was going to come back. And I think you can overthink these types of things. I think you can overthink these types of situations and these types of mindsets. Because if you think about it, if you know the guy's not going to be back for a couple months, why would you even make it a mystery? Because then all of a sudden the fans kind of expect him to come back. So if they know Mixon's going to miss a couple of months, maybe they just want to keep fans on their or teams on their toes. But the only reason that we know that he's missing 4 weeks is because they have to be transparent. Because the NFL does that. You have to put out injury reports and stuff. So I don't really know how they're going to handle this, but I just know that they might drag this on. We might be dealing with another Christian Harris type of situation. On the soup. You ain't never hate. Swarm. He says Kessler Sexton says, heard you talking about Breece Hall early on SNL, and they're trying to replace him with Braylon Allen. Would be a great addition to the run and pass game, and the Jets need picks. Look, I don't know. It seems like everybody brings up Breece Hall every time this happens. I think Breece Hall's a good player. I don't know that he's on the trade market. But if you can get a player like Breece Hall, then I think it would be good because he could help you in the short term and probably in the long term. Because you're pretty old and banged up at the running back position. Dameon Pierce is on the final year of his deal. Nick Chubb, this is the ghost of Nick Chubb. Dare Gumbawale, God bless him. He's not someone that you're gonna, just tote the rock with. So, yeah, outside of Woody Marks, you don't have a lot of young talent at the running back position. And Joe Mixon, I mean, gosh, we don't know what's going to happen. He got hurt last year, and now he's injured this year. So should the Texans be in the running back market? I mean, there's a really, really good back, sure, but I don't think they should be just out there trying to get any back. I don't think they're that desperate. I think they like this committee. I think they have a good enough defense and they have a good enough football team to where they're going to be able to be in games. And I don't necessarily think they should desperately be trying to pursue a running back in the running back market. But Breece Hall always comes up. There never seems to be much validity to bringing up Breece Hall, but he's a guy that comes up a lot. Breece Hall. Sure. I mean, if they could get Breece Hall, that would be great. I would find that hard to believe. And we have no idea what happened to Mixon, when it happened, what happened, D'Amico said there wasn't a setback. He was kind of, when he got real sassy about it early in camp, he said that, there wasn't really a setback in the injury, blah, 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 what's reported, whatever. Okay, well, then y'all knew he was this hurt? They overthink this. They overthink this stuff. And they overthink a lot of things. They overthink play-by-plays of practices, which I think is hilarious. I think it's actually kind of ironic and it's actually funny. And I'll just say it. I think it's funny that a guy who was a part of an organization that recorded practices is so paranoid about play-by-play practice and something here or there. And I'm not sitting here saying Caserio was holding the camera. I just think it's weird. Almost makes me think the Patriots have to vacate titles or something. if it's like that big of a deal. But they obsess over play-by-play practice. They obsess over any little question is like a trigger for them when it comes to the injuries. It's actually kind of entertaining. On the soup, Jacob Hyatt. Jacob says thoughts on the long snapper situation. Swarm. Having a good long snapper is like having a good toilet. No one cares about it until brown balls are flying over your head. I think that long snapper sucks. And I think it's crazy because John Weeks held it down for 20 years. John Weeks was never injured. John Weeks never had a bad snap. And you've had two guys attempt to replace him. One of them's a young kid who's already injured, which is something that didn't happen with John Weeks. And the other one is a guy who's been in the league 5 years that can't snap the ball. And I said this multiple times. I'm almost repeating myself like Mike Jones, but it would be a massive disgrace if the long snapping situation's what prevents them. After all this effort and hard work to put together a roster, if that's what cost them, that would be a damn shame. That'd be a damn shame. D'Amico did say that the young man Brinkman, who's been replacing John Weeks this offseason, he did say that he's had something minor. So that was a little bit of information. He said it's minor. Maybe he's just calling it minor because he's a long snapper. Maybe D'Amico's kind of a hardo. And he only protects the real football players. I'm just kidding. The running backs and the linebackers. But anything with a long snapper, it's minor. Throw some dirt on it, kid. But Mixon, I feel bad for people that drafted him in fantasy. Like this had to have been a situation where there had to be some people that were like, really, I know they don't give a damn about fantasy, but there had to be some people that drafted Joe Mixon just think, oh, well, he'll be back by the season. He had a good year last year. Nope. And quite frankly, I would stay away from the rest of the backs on the team. This running back committee, I think it's intriguing for a couple of reasons, but I really want to see what this offensive line blocks like when they're actually playing teams that are trying to stunt, teams that are fully game planning. I want to see what it looks like. I think there's been a slight honeymoon phase with the offensive line in this camp. And I also want to see what Nick Chubb looks like when teams are actually trying to stop him, because I've seen him in practice. It's crazy because the moments, the good moments get glorified, but the overall consistency where you don't see much, it doesn't really get mentioned. And compared to the other running backs, there's more of it from them than there has been from him. Now, you might just be sitting here saying that Nick Chubb is Allen Iverson.
We're in here talking about practice.
And, he ran a 4.5 at the combine. He's not fast. It's too early, all that. But I do want to see how big of a chunk of pie Nick Chubb gets in this committee. Like, how are they dividing this up? Like, are we going Chubb 60%? Are we going Chubb 50%? Are we going Chubb 70%? Are they going to give the ball to Nick Chubb 20 times? Because that's going to be the challenge of not just, I think there's going to be a challenge to actually run the ball, but I think there's going to be an actual challenge to divide up these carries. And a lot of times that's a good thing. Like if you have an awesome committee, like Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara back in the day, or hell, even what Nick Caley and Casario's Patriots teams that were recording practices, what they had, then, hey, it's an embarrassment of riches. We're going to let this guy catch the ball out of the backfield. We're going to run between the tackles with Sonny Michel. Maybe we'll throw him a little Rex Burkhead when he was good, not the Texans Rex Burkhead. I know that name kind of leads to a bunch of eye rolls, but that's fine. But the challenge with this running back committee is there's question marks about all of them, and they're not good ones. They're not good question marks. Now, if you divide it up the committee perfectly, maybe it works. But Nick Chubb past his prime. Dameon Pierce can't stay healthy. We don't know what he's going to do. Darrigan Bouale, I think they look at him more as a third down back and kind of a emergency back. He's also a special teamer. And Woody Marks is really the only guy. He's the upside of the committee. Woody Marks is the guy that you look at and you say, okay, maybe there's something there with Woody Marks. Maybe they just free Woody. How about that? Let's go free Woody. Everybody has the Chubb jokes. Free Woody. Hashtag free Woody from now on. I think Marks is the upside of this team when it comes to running back. I think they're going to maximize what he can do in the pass game. I think he runs the ball pretty well. And we don't see him a ton with the ones. We see it a little bit, but it looks good. It looks good. There's some burst. He is head and shoulders above most of the backs when it comes to catching the rock. Maybe the running backs are catching balls out of the backfield. That would be nice. We didn't see that last year with Bobby Slowick. So maybe we're going to see running backs catching the ball out of the backfield a little bit more. But Woody Marks is the only running back in this committee that has upside. He's the only one. I don't know what these people are watching when they say Nick Chubb looks good. I don't know what they're watching. There's been stretches. I was intrigued by the game. Practice, he turned it on a little bit. I don't know what these people are watching. Really don't. Hashtag free Woody. Hashtag free Woody. Soup chat.
Damn it, Bobby.
Oh, that was Damn It Bobby. The ghost of Damn It Bobby.
You ain't never
Swarm.
The RB room seems like 150 yards rushing in a game would be a split between 3 RBs. I know 150 is wishful thinking. You think? I mean, 150. If you get 150 out of this committee, then goodness gracious, Nick Caley ain't going to be here too long. But yeah, it's going to be a split. Just what does the split look like? I don't think, and I asked Nick Caley about this, and I actually I liked his answer about the committee, but I don't think that you go into a game as an OC and say, okay, this guy's, unless you have a running back that you feel really great about. But if you do have a committee, I think a lot of it's feel. And we don't know what Nick Caley's feel is like either. That's a whole nother thing. That's the two biggest takeaways from this thing here in the locker room. Be sure to subscribe, by the way. Subscribe, like, ride along. We're going to react to the 53 tomorrow at 4:00 on SNL. So there's a couple of things that I want to touch on. First of all, that Woody Marks is the upside of the committee. I think most of us agree. Hashtag free Woody. We don't know what that looks like, but it's the most it's the most realistic thing is Woody Marks kind of cranking it up a notch. But the other thing about this committee and with the whole Mixon thing is it might not be a make do committee, because we talk about the Mixon vibe and we talk about where things feel just based on being around. I haven't laid eyes on Joe Mixon this camp. I haven't seen him. I've seen everybody else literally on the side. I haven't seen Joe Mixon. So the vibe right now is, okay, well, this might be worse. I heard today, and do with this what you want, but I heard today, I was watching an NFL Live clip. I don't know. I think it was on the ESPN top story. So I clicked there to see if my boy DJ BNMA was the one who put the story. He did. Shout out to DJ. And you know how usually when you click on the video, you get the breakdown or whatever, like if it says Mixon hurt, it show like the NFL Live talking. First of all, they had Ryan Clark steering the ship, and then they had Dan Orlovsky and someone else. And I think it was Dan. And I don't put a lot of stock in what Dan says about the Texans. But he said, I think this is worse than we're hearing, because I can read between the lines of what Adam Schefter says, and it feels like it's going to be way more than 4 games. These are guys who are very connected. We know Ryan Clark and David Mulligetta have like a business relationship and all that. We know Dan Orlovsky obviously was in the league. He knows a lot of people. We've been saying this locally, but they're saying it nationally too. And in these instances, because D'Amico is the way he is and Caserio is the way he is when it comes to their transparency with the fans, media, all that, the national guys are the ones who are talking to the agents. Agents talk to each other. You ever talk to a reporter like off record and you're like talking to them, they're going to tell you what an agent said and all this. That's like high level, like type of stuff. So if those guys are saying that, then, I mean, you got to take them at their word. I mean, that's the overall feel locally. Nationally, a lot of times there's kind of a disconnect, but I think on something like this, I think you got to kind of raise the eyebrows when you hear Orlovsky and Ryan Clark say that. I think you gotta raise the eyebrows a little bit on that. No doubt. And then you got to factor in Joe Mixon's never been in this system. He's never practiced in this system. He's got a hurt foot. So you have that. We thought this was going to be something tomorrow. They threw this on us today. So there you go. In other news, and we're going to break this down. I think this is cool. I don't know that everyone knows this. I saw Ari Myrov laid this out on Twitter. Ari's done a really good job lately describing things on Twitter. I think he's gotten kind of out of just archiving, and he's doing his thing when it comes to covering the squad. But tomorrow, the roster has to be cut to 53 by tomorrow. There's also going to be a 16-man practice squad, which you start filling after players go through waivers and all that type of stuff. But tomorrow at 3 p.m. local, 4 p.m. Eastern, the rosters have to be trimmed to 53. Now, a lot of people will say, well, what does that mean? What's the process? I thought this was where Ari Mairov kind of laid it out pretty nicely. And we'll get into the impact that Mixon has on this 53-man roster and also the tough decisions that the Texans have, which is where we thought the show would be, but now we know what the deal is with Mixon. So whenever a team releases a player, the players that have been in the league for under 4 years, they go on waivers, which means the draft order is waivers, which means the Tennessee Titans have the first waiver claim. They can claim 5 guys if they want, 6. They can claim as many guys as they want. It's not like a snake draft. Now, the guys that have been in the league for more than 4 years, they're free agents. So they can sign wherever and they can figure something out. So if the Texans release Luke Lachey tomorrow, then Luke Lachey goes through waivers, and if someone wants to pick him up, they can pick him up. If they release Irv Smith, then Irv Smith becomes a free agent. So that's the best way to lay out that example. And I'll tell you what I think they're going to do with the tight ends on the back end. But that's how waivers work. And it's the draft order, as I said, and you can add as many guys as possible, as we said as well. The deadline for waiver claims will be Wednesday at 11 a.m. local. So, damn, Nick Caserio, he's going to talk. Maybe we'll know who they're going to claim. We'll keep an eye on that. But after you make you waive guys tomorrow and you fill out the roster at the 3 p.m. deadline, the next day at 11 is when there's a deadline for waiver claims. So basically, Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryans ain't leaving the office tomorrow. Now, in order to add a waiver guy, you're going to have to cut someone. So if the Texans trim the roster down to 53, and then their turn comes up in waivers, and they like somebody like let's say a tight end, a D tackle, probably not a D tackle, but like a tight end, whatever. Then they have to cut someone. So someone who makes that 53 can still be cut. That's why we always see like this guy makes the team, and then a little bit later on that happens. That's how that happens when it comes to waivers. Now the practice squad. It's a 16-man practice squad now. It's much more than it used to be back in the day. But you only get 6 vets with 4+ years. So you can have a Irv Smith, a Yeast on your practice squad, but you can only have 6 guys with 4+ years, which is why when it comes to the tight end position, though, they might have to decide between Bryant and Irv Smith if they want to keep one of those guys around on the practice squad. And then Lachey could be one of the 10 younger guys. But once the vets with 4+, it becomes a little bit tougher. I think the clock's probably ticking on Austin Deculus. They'd love to keep him around, though. He knows what he's doing. I'm sure he'll be here. He'll get released and then brought back. But that's the 16-man practice squad. Now, this was the Mixon rule. I had this prepared for today, but then it happened. Players on PUP or IR all camp or non-injury list, they have to miss at least 4 games. So you see the parentheses, Joe Mixon. So that's what happened today. So that's the whole process. The 53 is the first start, and then that's where we figure out the thing. Are y'all really talking about Shiloh Sanders? Come on, guys. Be serious. Now, I do have this question when it comes to the Joe Mixon thing. Has Mixon dependency been eliminated? That was something that we talked about. Earlier in the offseason was Mixon dependency. Last year, the running game was like just too was too dependent on Joe Mixon. That test is going to be front and center now when it comes to the Texans right off the top. And Nick Caley's going to get tested immediately too. Nick Caley's going to get tested too. And that's maybe something that he's been prepared for. They probably knew that Mixon was going to be out, but the Mixon dependency test immediately starts. You got Tampa Bay, you got the Rams to start the season, and then you got the Jags, and you got the Titans. It's 2-2, 3-1. What are we thinking? It's the defense that's gonna stir the drink. It's the defense that's gonna stir the drink. I'm going on a timeout spree. Anyone who brings up Shiloh Sanders goes in timeout. He goes in timeout. But the Mixon dependency test, it immediately starts now. And it's going to be a hell of a test. Now, the impact on this when it comes to the roster, I think you're keeping 4 backs no matter what. You're keeping 4. Could there be an outside shot that they keep British Brooks too? Maybe. That might be more special teams motivated. But there's 100% chance that you're keeping 4. You're keeping 4 backs. Now, will they maybe peek around a little bit more and look at running backs on the market? Perhaps, but you're keeping 4. And this kind of makes sense as to why Dameon Pierce, why they were so maybe cautious with him and why they signed Nick Chubb. They knew this Mixon thing was going on. But we think Dare Ogunbowale is good to go. They talk very nicely about him, especially on special teams. Some people have kind of punched their ticket for maybe a surprise Dare Ogunbowale cut. That would shock me with where they are right now. So I don't see that. I don't see that that really impacting that. So they're keeping the 4. The most interesting roster positions as they go to the 53 are defensive tackle, wide receiver, tight end for different reasons. The defensive tackles, are you keeping 5? Are you keeping Sheldon Rankins, Mario Edwards Jr., Tim Settle, Foley Fatukasi, and Tommy Togiai? Are you keeping all 5? I would think so. I would think D'Amico would want to rotate all those guys in. He talks very nicely about Tommy Togiai. Now, the guy that he's actually spoken like the least praise of has been Tim Settle. Said he needed to work on his consistency. All the other guys he said are consistent. Maybe he's just trying to get the most out of Tim Settle, but if you're trying to look for, well, maybe they only keep 4, that would be a surprise cut of all surprise cuts. Don't see that happening. I would think that they would keep 5 DTs. Now, the wide receivers, it was 6 or 7. You got to wonder if that's down to 6 now. I think Justin Watson's in a weird spot. I don't know that Braxton Berrios is 100% safe, but Justin Watson, after they got rid of John Mechie, look, the way Xavier Hutchinson looks has as much to do with that as anything else. The way that Xavier Hutchinson looks, he looks like wide receiver 3 right now. He looks like a guy who you can make a case perhaps at wide receiver had the best camp of anyone, including Nico Collins. Nico Collins, though, is battling with Derek Stingley. He was not really a practice player. Wasn't even the best receiver in camp last year, Nico Collins. It was Stephon Diggs. But once the game started, Nico Collins cranked it up. So when you say that about Xavier Hutchinson, that's not to say he's in the same category as Nico Collins. It's just he had a really, really good camp. And if they would have anticipated that was what was going to happen, I don't know that they even cared about bringing in Justin Watson. So maybe Justin Watson is or isn't safe. Berrios, you think he's kind of your return guy. So maybe he's the 6th. Do they keep 7 wide receivers this year? if the answer is no, then that just solves your problem right there at DT. And you just keep the 5 and you have 6 wideouts and you have some guys on the practice squad, whether it's, I don't know, Cephas. They brought in Wayne for a workout. I think Jared Wayne will probably be back on the practice squad. They brought back Hallman. Like they're bringing back these familiar faces. So you think those guys are probably practice squad guys. So maybe they don't think keeping Watson around would be something they want to do. Maybe they keep 7. I don't know. The tight end is interesting too. Because you know that Stover and Schultz are on the team. Do you have to use a roster spot on Harrison Bryant or Irv Smith? Or do you like that Jakob Johnson can play fullback and tight end? He can be your tight end 3. Because if you use Jakob Johnson in that, then you're kind of solving the problems there with the DT as well. So the tight end's gonna be interesting. Like really, if I asked you in the chat, okay, do you think that there's like a definitive answer about who's better between Irv Smith and Harrison Bryant? Like, do you feel like you just have to have either one of those guys? For me, the answer is no. Like, I really don't. I don't see any like massive upside. I don't know if anyone's going to claim Irv Smith. I think you can probably sneak Irv Smith or Bryant maybe on the practice squad. But I don't sit here and think, okay, well, this is my definitive opinion about tight end 3. There's a big drop off from Brevin Jordan to these 2 guys. And that's the other thing, the Brevin Jordan situation. That kind of changes this. Right now we're focused on the Mixon thing because that's the big news. But the Brevin Jordan situation changed stuff as much as anything when it comes to the tight ends. But that's where the interesting decisions are. Outside of that, I mean, maybe we're looking at Miles Bryant and Arthur Mollett and thinking, okay, are they going to keep either one of those guys? I think if they, whichever one they decide in that area, I think they're going to want to hope the other ends up back here on the practice squad. It would be one of the 6 guys with 4+ years of experience. I think whichever one, as far as Irv Smith and Bryant, I think they're choosing between one or the other, and then they're hoping that Lachey gets back to them on the practice squad. But I don't think they're worried about keeping both Irv Smith and Bryant. It was a throwaway trade. You saw what Philadelphia did with Kenyon Green. They didn't think they were getting some stud in Kenyon Green. Got rid of him today. That's kind of what the Harrison Bryant was. It was getting rid of Mechie, who's a good player. It's a back. What if it was like a payback? What if that was the deal with Howie Roseman? And Howie Roseman was like, look, CJ Gardner-Johnson was a part of our Super Bowl team. He had a really good year. We're probably not going to keep him. I know that you think this Kenyon Green guy's not good. So we'll go ahead and make this trade and we'll flip draft picks. But if John Mechie's not on your football team, then you have to promise to trade him to me and I'll throw you somebody that we think stinks. And then we'll give you the draft pick back even. What if Nick Caserio and Howie Roseman are like that tight to where they're like, all right, we're gonna make do with this. Okay. You get me now, I'll get you later. Like when you go to the bar with your boy or something like that. I got this time, you get next time. You know, you're going to end up back at Pluckers, just like, you know, Howie Roseman and Nick Caserio are going to end up trading together. That they're that tight. Like, you know, you're going to end up back at the bar with your boys. So they're just doing that. They're just that tight. But I don't think this is the end of the world with the Mixon thing. It's not great, but I really don't think it's the end of the world. I think this defense is so good that you're going to be in every game. I think Nick Caley's going to attack in a good way. I think he's going to get the ball out of CJ's hands quickly. And I just think the defense is going to keep you in games. Like, there have been some dog-butted offenses that have been able to win games because of a good defense. And that's how good I think this defense is. And you're facing a Rams team now. I do think the Rams D-line is going to challenge the offensive line. but you're facing a Rams team that their quarterback's banged up, and it's not like they're that much better than you. I think the line's too, which means that the teams are even right now, like in Vegas, like on paper. So I would say 2-2 is very realistic with this, and then maybe it could even end up being better. But I wouldn't freak out about Mixon. Now, if you get to maybe it changes a little bit if you get to halfway through the season or whatever, and you're not able to run the ball, and you find yourself in a non-ideal situation, then yeah, that's a completely different story. But I don't think like the sky is falling. I think the matchups that you have are such to where you're gonna be able to tread water relatively soon the first 4 weeks of the year. And the Woody Marks thing is something interesting to keep an eye on. He's getting a little bit of run now when it comes to fantasy drafts and all that. I don't know that I would go that far and make that pick, but we'll see. See what it looks like. It's gonna be interesting to hear what Caserio has to say about this, and D'Amico as well, and what they do at the 53. They've already made the 53 though, right? Like, you think they went to bed? Like, they didn't go to bed today and say, "All right, tomorrow let's get up early, sharp, and we got till 3:00 to make the roster." That's always funny because we all do it. Like, well, because we can only react to like what what it is, and we can forecast and stuff. But sometimes I think there's like a sense of when 3:00 said, "Well, what are they doing? What are they doing? What are they doing?" Well, they've probably already made the decision. I think it'd be sick if you just like dropped it at midnight. The midnight drop. Do like a Texans promotion type of joint. Drop it at 3. But yeah, they know what they're doing. They know about that. Is this the end of Kenyon Green's football career? Rich Boy J asks. He might hop around in some way, shape, or form. He might hop around. But the change of scenery thing, I guess, exaggerated. I was happy to see what he would do with a change of scenery. There just really wasn't much of a sign of anything to see. Daniel Jackson not making it because he most likely getting claimed. You think? Why do you think that? I don't know. I mean, he's okay. I don't know that like Daniel Jackson people are dying to claim him. I wouldn't say that. I could see him ending up back here. As far as some other news that could drop tomorrow when it comes to the vets that have been on PUP, I find it hard to believe Trent Brown's going to be ready before the first 4 weeks. That seems that's a big stretch. I don't know if Aaron's already said that. We were talking about that earlier today. I don't know what is going on with Danico Autry. Like they loved him so much. Caserio said he's like the number one guy he wanted to take in a dark alley and beat some ass and all that type of stuff. But I mean, how long are we doing this? When you're in your mid-30s, you missed the majority of the games last season. You have pretty good talent on the D line. I think Darrell Taylor is a guy that they like to move around a little bit. You like him. You still have Barnett. You're talking about keeping 5 D tackles. It doesn't. The idea of Danico Autry was awesome. A guy who had a decent amount of sacks a couple of years ago, and a guy that you brought in that you can put all over the place and He can move around on the line and all this. And I know he had like a nice a nice flash when it mattered last season, but I mean, damn. How much longer are we doing this? I don't know. Trent Brown, someone's asking, Trey's asking, not back until after the off week. I am with the injury that Trent Brown had, I would be pretty surprised to see it. Who knows? Maybe when they get back to practice, we look over and we see Trent Brown running full speed on the side field and getting some work in. How much does he have left? Don't know. Can't be much worse than Blake Fisher. He'd probably play right now and be as good as Blake Fisher. Right now. Yeah, I would just stay away from dark alleys too. Yeah, I don't know why Nick Caserio is going in dark alleys. I don't even think Nick Caserio drinks or anything. He's talking about going down dark alleys. So the schedule tomorrow, we'll just hear about the roster cuts. We'll react to them on SNL, 4 o'clock, right here on YouTube, all podcast platforms. We'll react at 10:30, perhaps on that
high-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
And then we'll have a grasp of the 53. However, the fluid process, once we sign off the night stream mañana, we're going to have 12 hours for waiver deadlines. And from any time from, who knows, like in the afternoon to there, they'll have till 11 to claim guys. So it's a very fun, fluid process. And then the season kind of intensifies and we get into it. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Subscribe, like, ride along. It's going to be a big day tomorrow, massive ass day tomorrow. Now, we have the Mixon clarity, so we're not just waiting for that. But tomorrow's one of the more fun days with what we do. Join us, 4 o'clock, biggest stream on YouTube, SNL. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Ayy. Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize. Every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days. Opinions to give. We got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number 1. You don't need to try.